Hey everybody, welcome to the GoNoGo Safety Show. I'm David Levesque, and this is the first episode. It's July 20th, 2020, and we're in the middle of a huge pandemic of pandemic proportions. And I know I seem happy about it, which is a little weird, but the reason I'm happy about it is because I want to help the world, and I think we have great solutions for helping the world, and specifically helping you feel safe and secure in your own body and in your home and in our community. So that's what we're going to be talking about here on the Safety Show. So if that's interesting to you, please stick around and please participate. It's going to be every day at 12:19 for 19 minutes. It's 12:19 Pacific time. So thanks for joining in. Here on today's show, we're going to just brainstorm about all the different ways that COVID-19 makes us feel unsafe. And maybe if we have time for it, we'll also brainstorm on ways that we could solve those issues. So I'm going to go ahead and get started right now and share my screen with you. If you have a question or a comment as we get through here, feel free to raise your hand or put something in the chat, and I'll call you in and bring you into the recording, okay? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and thanks for tuning in on our YouTube channel and subscribing to our videos. You can see all of our videos at GoNoGo.org, and I'll tell you more about what GoNoGo is about a little bit later. But first, I want to give a little context to our conversation. And the context is that we're using sound as a part of our health. And you may have heard about the idea of the chakras. And so the chakras are the 7 energy centers in your body that have been studied for centuries. And still a lot of people haven't heard about them because they're mostly, happen in India and Pakistan and those parts of the world. Another interesting thing about the chakras is they all have notes that go with them, frequencies, just like the frequencies of a piano key, or like you might know of as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, the 8 notes of the scale. As you can see here on the screen, we have essentially those 8 notes in different parts of our bodies, and we call them chakras. So you can see the root chakra here is at the base of your spine, and it's called the root chakra, of course, and it relates to grounding and survival and security. And the next one up, the sacral chakra, it relates to your emotions and sexuality and sensation. And then the next one up in your solar plexus is energy, vitality, and power. And then the next one up, your heart chakra, love, compassion, empathy. And the next one up, communication, creativity, and listening. That's your throat, obviously having to do with communication. And then the next one up, clairvoyance, your third eye, which we've heard of many times between your eyes here, clairvoyance, intuition, vision. And then finally, the 7th chakra in the list, transcendence and wisdom and understanding. And as I mentioned, there are 8. So that's why you come back around to the bottom again, just like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do is obviously a repeat coming back, but it's not really a repeat. It's not really a circle. It's a higher level. It's an octave higher. So it sounds like things are repeating. We often hear the history is repeating, but really we're in a new place now than we were a minute ago or even a second ago, right? We are moving forward, just like everything in life is moving forward. And so this way of talking about the 8 things or 8 notes is a way of understanding kind of the concept of moving forward. So here on the GoNoGo Safety Show, what we want to do is take each of those 7 areas in your body and relate them to how you're feeling now with the pandemic that's happening. So if we just take the first one, survival, and we talk about what you're feeling as it relates to safety and survival. So I'll go ahead and open up the phone lines here and bring in our guests and have topics and take some notes. So we have today on the call Samina and also Lucas. So feel free, Samina and Lucas, if you have any ideas about, obviously COVID is a thing that we hear about as it relates to survival a lot. There's a lot of talk about how many people are dying and there's less talk about how many people are surviving, even though many more people are surviving. So, let's just kind of open up the box and talk about any feelings or emotions we're having about survival as it relates to COVID. So I'll go ahead and pause there and take some notes if there's any thoughts that come to mind for anybody.
Yes, I have some thoughts, David. Thank you so much for the program. And I have a couple of things ring true to what you just said. about the survivors and why. So there's a bunch of things that we have to prepare for. And one is there's going to be survival guilt that people are going to struggle with. People are going to survive. People are going to struggle with health issues after this, and all those is something that is happening that has to happen, or rather, people are going to have those things. I am wondering about, you're talking about safety and how to safeguard yourself, and I'm thinking about, rather than waiting for a vaccine and all this sort of thing, there's some nutritional things, there's some replenishment things like sleeping well, drinking enough water, there's supplementation if you need to, eating well, less processed food that give life, and all those are things that we could do right now to, one, protect ourselves from getting it. And even if you get it, your body is strong enough to fight it without leaving long-lasting side effects on it. So I think those are some of those things that instead of waiting for anybody else to come in and help you, start doing those things, reducing the amount of sugar, reducing the amount of processed food and stuff like that. So that is my 2 cents in regards to that.
That's amazing, Lucas. Thank you for that big picture. I'm looking forward to talking more in each of those topics in detail as we go forward with the safety show. Samina, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I agree with what Lucas said. Nothing more to add at this point.
Fantastic. And it's so interesting when we have this sense of death, or the fear of death, and how it paralyzes us, right? And that's obviously what's happening in our culture, right? Because we're all staying in one place in our homes and not traveling, and that's a form of paralysis, right? Not moving around. And so what I wonder about, I don't want to be too controversial, but I wonder about is that somehow a plan or somebody's idea of what they want to see happening in the world? I don't think so. I don't want to. I mean, my whole goal of having the safety show is that you do, like Lucas said, build up your immune system, feel strong, and not be paralyzed, and not feel afraid for your own survival through everything that we're doing. So that's good. And I think a lot of things, sometimes I'll just add this and we'll talk about it in future shows. I think what's interesting about survival being at the root of our being, obviously our being wants to live and live well. And what I find is when I talk to a lot of people, a lot of the challenges and issues that they have in life, whether it's emotional challenges or kind of, we can just simply categorize them as anger. A lot of times those things relate to things that we think are related to our survival. So for example, I don't have enough money and I'm really scared. Well, why am I scared about that? And maybe because I don't think that if I don't have money, I can't eat. And if I don't have enough food, I can't live. So a lot of times everything kind of circles back to this survival mechanism. And I think what's beautiful about being a human is that, unlike other animals who are really just fundamentally just surviving and procreating, we have all these other beautiful layers to ourselves beyond survival that we do as humans. And of course other animals do too, but humans are creating it in a kind of another realm or another level compared to the other animals, I think. And so let's move on to the next area of a way that potential COVID is impacting us and related to our creativity. Now, I took the sacral chakra, which is a lot of times talked about as the sexual chakra, and I turned it to just creativity in general, not just procreation, which is obviously creativity, but also just creativity in general. The ability to, for me in my own life, not to go out dancing and be creative in that way and express my body with the music. That's been a challenge, and I haven't been able to do it for months, and it's really a thing that I enjoy, and I think that is good for my being in a lot of ways. So are there any other thoughts around how COVID is stifling creativity?
Can I go ahead, David?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I think you're talking about lack of ability of the creativity that you always did in past, but at the same time, I have seen in my own personal as well as professional space that COVID has created a lot more avenues for creativity than there were before. People have found ways to work at home, and there are new tools that are coming out. Technology has been evolving, and there's one thing, like I see one benefit, like pollution, global warming, all these things that people were talking about. I mean, there's so much less pollution now. Who knew this would be like one way to do that? So I have, yes, I cannot do certain things that I was always able to do, but at the same time, I have been able to discover things that I didn't know about what my mind can do, and what people are spending more time with their children like they never did before. There was a huge disconnect in the system, in my opinion, that I've seen. Parents are always busy working, kids were always busy in their own lives. Now they have to talk, so I think we as a species are learning new ways to reach a higher level, and eventually it's going to work out for the best. That's my hope.
Thank you. I like that perspective. That's super awesome, Smina. Okay, great. So
in addition to that, David, if you give me a moment here, is that creativity. So what we used to call creative, was it creativity or was it not? When we had to go to one place, all of us had to go to the dance hall to dance together there and do a particular thing and do all these things. We had to go to school, we had to go to work, all these things that we used to do as reflex. Is that what it's supposed to be? I have a t-shirt that has the title, it says disrupt or be disrupted. Who knew that there was a health issue like this one would just challenge the mind to grow? And I put an analogy of, if somebody gets a stroke, a friend of mine did one, then she lost her right side completely. 6 months later, when she was better, she was already able to use her left, and from there on, she could write with both hands. She could draw with the right and write with the left. So from that particular situation that was a little tough, she grew a new dimension that she didn't know she had. So this is a process that I think is going on right now. The deaths that are happening, they're unfortunate. I mean, nobody wants that to happen. The idea is, though, from all this ramage, all this, whatever is happening, the fallout and everything, there is something beautiful growing. There is some creativity that we did not, there's a level of creativity that we've gone into that nobody thought was possible. And I think if we start looking at we look at the abundance of this thing, other than looking at the lack of abundance, the abundance will show that, yes, we've been restricted, but then in one way we have, but in another way we've not. So our minds have been allowed to fly and make a difference. Yes.
Love that. Awesome. Thank you, Lucas. That's great. Terrific. Okay, so let's move up the spine now to the solar plexus and personal power, and how maybe the situation has either challenged or created opportunities around personal power. For me, I've worked from home most of my career for over 20 years, and so this is not new for me, and I think working from home makes me really efficient, and based on kind of a lot of things that both of you are saying. And also from a personal power perspective, as an add-on to what you were saying, Lucas, because I work from home, I don't spend hours in a car, and I don't get angry for the car, and I don't spend time cleaning the car, and all this car time and car energy doesn't exist in my life. So that's why I can be more efficient and more effective. And how does that relate to personal power? I guess what I'm trying to say is, for me in my own life, not much has changed. And so I feel just as powerful as I did before. So I'm interested to hear kind of how that feels for each of you.
I really like the fact that Bay Area traffic is so much better now. That sums up for me,
Right.
Road rage and all these. And there's one thing I noticed, like sometimes when I do have to go out, I try not to, but sometimes when you do need to go pick up something that you ordered from curbside and all that, people are more patient now than before. Like when you're getting out of the parking lot trying to come to the street and nobody would let you come in.
I agree.
I've generally noticed that those few times that I have gone out, people would actually stop and let you go. So this is like a general air of caring and respecting others has been out there, which I didn't feel before. So
it's interesting. And I have a hint. I like the way you're saying that. And I have a hint that also comes back to survival, right? Because in some way they're keeping their distance for their own survival, right? So they're kind of coming back to that. But maybe it even goes beyond that. It does go to caring and caring for the other person's survival as well, or the other person's space. So let's explore that more. It'd be great to hear from more people on their own kind of experiences about that. Cool. Are there any other thoughts on personal power? We have 3 minutes left. So maybe I'll move on to the next one, which is relationships. Ooh, this has been an area that I know has been challenging for many people, especially single people. I'm married and have been married for many years. And so it was challenging for me when my mom came to California to visit, and I didn't know if I should even see her. She lives across the country, and I only see her once a year, and I didn't even know if it was safe to go see her. So that was challenging for me. So I'll just put down visiting family.
I'll put something else there that you said about it's challenging for single people. I think, again, I'm going to look in terms of abundance. Mm-hmm. The abundance among single people is, first of all, you get a chance to just be with your stuff. Some people are moving from one place to another to doing this, to doing that. They have no time for themselves other than when they're going to sleep or when they're drunk somewhere and now it's time to have something to eat and sleep. Now it's a time where you don't have to go somewhere. You are not going out running somewhere. You have to sit down and listen to yourself when you don't have somebody. So then that gives you a dimension of yourself that you didn't know. Secondly, when you talk about married couples or families, this pandemic has made sure that you understand who it is you are with. Because you're together, there is no running away to work, there's no running away to school. Kids get to know their folks, folks get to know their kids, partners get to know each other because you're locked in a space where you have to share now everything. You can't avoid somebody because you need to eat, you need to do everything in one space. So I'm looking at, this is another way, another creativity that's being born on. How do you deal with it? If you had an issue with your folks or your parents or kids, how do you deal with that to make sure that the survival thing you're talking about, David, or also to flourish and to fly? And that is the challenge. I have a couple kids at home right now, absolutely brilliant kids. The challenge has been between me and my wife is how do we challenge them? What is the thing we give them to make them keep on growing on that? Because it's easy to just sit down and not do it. Okay. So I think that challenging, that thing of how do you move to the next level? You could moat. I'm sure there are people and my friends that some I call and they're like, oh man, I can't do. Yes, that's what you can't do. What can you do? Is the question I always ask. Yeah.
And one last point on that, you also have now learned how to value relationships because people who haven't talked to their parents in years are now calling them to check if they're okay. So, the distance relationships are now being more valued than before. And yeah, he's right. I have two, colleagues, not in my current, past colleagues who call me for advice for the problems they were having in their marriage. And that all started just because they are now locked in the same, space with their spouse, which they didn't see all day before, wasn't that much interaction. So now basically your relationship will mature because, the more problems you sort out, the more mature you become in a relationship. So I think that's an opportunity for them to learn more about each other and understand and be more tolerant of each other. So I see both positive,
That's amazing, Samina. Thank you for sharing that. We're actually at time now. It's been 19 minutes for the safety show. So we'll pick up the rest of these topics tomorrow. We meet every day at 12:19 Pacific. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching this video on LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter or wherever you're seeing it, thank you to Lucas and Samina for being here. We're going to pick up more conversations like this tomorrow. I totally agree with you, Samina, that and Lucas too. The challenges help you grow and help you learn, help you be a better person, and for yourself and for the others around you. And so that's amazing. And like you said many times, now is a good time to turn these challenges into benefits for all of us. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in to the Safety Show. I'm David Levesque from GoNoGo.org. Have a great day. Bye-bye.